Hey, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to cook with one of the most delicious snacks in Portugal, the almond. It's used in a lot of cake recipes and desserts, very popular throughout Portugal. And we're going to make a Portuguese tart or Portuguese torta. Interesting folklore story about how so many almonds came to that region. During Moorish occupation of southern Portugal, there was a king that married a princess from one of the northern countries, and she became depressed. And one of the king's servants let the king know that, she's probably depressed because she doesn't see snow anymore. And so this king ordered thousands of almond trees to be planted in southern Portugal. I live around almond country, anyone that lives around almond country knows that when the bloom falls off of almonds for about a week, the ground is just, pure white in the orchards. It's just beautiful. That's the story of how so many almonds got to Portugal. Okay, for the almond tort, I'm using almond flour. This is the same kind of flour they use for marzipan. The total sugar for the recipe is 1 1/4 cups. So 1/4 cup I'm going to mix into this. You just kind of want to mix the sugar and the almonds well together. It's helping so they don't cake together. Helps keep all the little granules separated. At this time, I'll add in the 1/2 teaspoon of salt also. Okay, mix that up well. Okay, now we're going to cream the butter, the egg yolks, and sugar together. You want to reserve about 2 tablespoons of sugar for the meringue. I'm using the paddle attachment on the mixer. You could use a whisk attachment if your butter is a little softer, or especially if you're doing this by hand, which you definitely could do this by hand, your butter will have to be pretty soft, almost spreadable. So I'm going to let this go for about 5 minutes. You can see there's some big chunks of butter in there, but you basically want a smooth consistency. It already looks very smooth. I mean, as far as there's no chunks of butter in there. Can you tell I was the type of kid that loved to lick the beater? That was blending for about 3 minutes. If you're doing this by hand, that process will probably be more like 7 minutes. Now, key thing here, the next step is going to be to make a meringue. The enemy of meringue is fat. This has fat, it has egg yolk in it, butter in it. So this bowl, I'm going to take the ingredients out of this bowl, put them in another bowl. This bowl has to be spotless. Clean it 3 times. When you're done, wipe it with a towel, then wipe it with a dry cloth. You do not want any fat when making whipped egg whites, because if egg whites have fat, they just do not develop properly. I have a whole section on my website called Concepts, and I have a section under there called Eggs, and then there's everything about eggs, meringues. The other thing about meringue, older eggs are better. The newer an egg is, the more alkalinity it has. And so, I'm not saying sit around waiting for old eggs, but the way to get around that is just a little bit of lemon juice or cream of tartar, another dry acid, in the egg whites really helps out. So for my egg whites, I like to add 1/4 teaspoon per egg of lemon juice whenever I make an egg white. It helps stabilize the proteins so they hold their shape. Put this in another bowl. All right, now we're gonna whip the egg whites. The bowl, the beater, the whip itself has been cleaned really well. The egg whites, when you're separating your egg whites, make sure not 1 drop of egg yolk goes into this. If you cannot get 100% of that egg yolk out, just save it for scrambled eggs. Put 4 egg whites in there. I'm going to turn it on, and then after add a little bit of lemon juice. The lemon juice helps reduce the pH and stabilize the egg white better. I will slowly add in the lemon juice. At high speed, so depending on how powerful your mixer is, hand mixing this might take 3 minutes here. It was probably 30 seconds to a minute. Your egg whites become what they call frothy. See how it's still liquid, but just very frothy? When it gets to the frothy stage, that's where you could slowly add in your sugar. I don't think they're ready yet, but this is well, that's sort of getting close. You want what they call a soft peak. So the best way to tell if you have a soft peak is by just taking out the whisk. If you're using a hand whisk, or take off the beater. And you see how that totally droops down? That's not soft yet. Soft peak should point up and droop over. Grab a bunch with your whisk. Yep, that one didn't have Viagra. That one's a little droopy. So that's kind of what you're looking for. Soft peak. My oven is preheated to 325 degrees. Make sure you butter your tart pan. This could be done in a false bottom tart pan or in a spring form pan. You could use like a spray-on oil for this too if you like. Okay, now with a rubber spatula, you want to put in a little bit of the almond mixture. Kind of try to spread that out evenly. Just fold gently. Put in my lemon zest, my vanilla extract, some more almonds. You're just slowly incorporating the almond mixture that was kind of mixed together with sugar and salt. You really want to almost like a tumbling washing machine, just let it tumble over itself. You do not want to use something like a whisk. You want to just fold it over. It keeps the air in the meringue better. It's going to deflate, but you're just trying to keep it a little airy. Now I'll mix in some of our butter mixture. Some more almond flour. They call it almond flour, but basically it's just ground up almonds. You know, if you live next to a ranch and you want to grind up your own almonds, or if you get a big bag at Costco, you could do that also. So now I have my butter egg mixture in there. Put the rest of the almond mixture in. My oven is on at 350 degrees. So now I'll just press this into the mold. It's kind of the consistency of really soft cookie dough. So you want to kind of smooth it out, press it down, but don't overwork it more than you need to. Kind of want to get it into the little fluted sides if you have a fluted pan. Okay, that looks pretty good. Just kind of smooth out the top so there's no big crevices. All right, that's it. 350 degrees, and you want to bake it for about 45 minutes. You want to put your tart pan directly on the oven rack. I like to put it right in the middle with a cookie sheet underneath to catch anything that might drip out of the pan. You do this because you want heat coming directly in contact with the bottom of the tart. That way it helps develop a crust on the bottom of this tart. This tart, you don't make a crust, but on the edges of the pan and on the bottom where it's in contact with more heat, it actually develops kind of a crust. You want to bake your tart until the middle gets to about 180 to 185 degrees Fahrenheit. I wish you could smell how good this house smells right now. Just that toasted almond aroma is just so intense. It's awesome. Decorate this a few ways. You could just sprinkle powdered sugar on top. You could serve it plain like this. You could put slivered almonds, like maybe toasted slivered almonds, and then some powdered sugar on top, then cut it. You can see how easily it's popping out. It's still a little warm. It smells so freaking good. Oh, look at that. Tort de Amêndoa. Thanks for joining me for this recipe. Now go out and cook for someone you love.